Okay, so now that we've set up the project directory for this tutorial, the next thing I want to talk about in this video is just give you a brief and quick overview of the different interface elements and tools we're going to be using for this tutorial. This is a dynamics tutorial where we're going to be using simulation dynamics in XSI to create very specific dynamic effects using physics and things like that. So the model main menu here, which is the default main toolbar here on the left, which is shown here in purple, is not the ideal toolbar to be using when you're working with dynamics. So if we click up here under model, we'll see that we have simulate here, and a shortcut for that is 4 on the keyboard. Just click on that, and this one is a pink reddish color, just to let you know that you're in simulate mode. And with this main toolbar here, we're going to be using all kinds of different tools. We're going to be using the rigid body tools. We're also going to be using soft bodies as well. And we're going to be getting a little bit into forces because we need to use forces, of course, to go ahead and create some interesting simulations with rigid bodies and even soft bodies. So we have different things to work with here, including environments and things and obstacles. So we'll get into that during this tutorial. So the main toolbar here on the left is one of the main interface areas that we're going to be using pretty often during this tutorial. And the neat thing is that it's color coded to let you know that you're in simulate mode. Now likewise, we can also come up here to the main menu and we can choose simulate mode from up here. Now this menu is the same exact menu that you see over here on the main toolbar when you're in simulate mode. So why are there two versions of the same menu? Well, it's just a matter of convenience. What you can do with this simulate menu is you can click on the scissors icon here where it showed the hash marks or the dotted lines, and then you can just tear this menu out, and now you have this menu which you can double click the name bar up here to collapse it or expand it. So from here you have all your different menus and things, the same menus that you would get if you were to come over here to the main toolbar and try to access them through here. So it's a very convenient little nifty tool here that we can use to our advantage. So I'll close that. The other thing that we're going to be using here is going to be the MCP. Over here on the right we have the MCP, the main command panel, and this is where you have control over a different set of things in XSI. Things like being able to move things around, rotate them, scale them, constrain them, snap them to the grid or to other points on an object. We can also set up parent and child relationships and things like that, and freeze modeling down here to clean up our modeling construction history once it starts to get pretty dense. We also have some other tools here for selecting different components and different types of elements inside of Softimage XSI. We can also switch out the MCP for different versions. So down here we have these 3 tabs, and the first one says MCP. That's the mode that we're in now. We can click on KPL over here to switch to the key panel and layers toolbar, and then we can switch over here and we can use different transform tools over here, pretty much the same ones that are available in the MCP. We also have scene layers, which can be pretty useful, animation layers as well, and if we click on MAT, this opens up the material toolbar, which is empty right now because we don't have any objects or materials in our scene. So the MCP is actually the one that we're going to be using the most over here on the right of the interface, and it's where we're going to go ahead and use a few different tools here to aid us when it comes to creating dynamic simulations inside of Softimage XSI. Another part of the interface that's pretty interesting we're going to be using during this tutorial is the bottom of the interface here, where you see these different animation tools. You see the play buttons, the fast forwarding buttons, the play animation loop buttons and things like that. We also see this timeline down here. We're actually going to be using that with dynamics and simulations. We're not going to be animating a lot, but we will touch on the subject of animation because you do get to a point where sometimes you can actually mix animation with dynamic simulations. So because that's relevant to the tutorial, we're going to go ahead and talk about that and see how animation can come into play and how you can use it to your advantage when working with simulation inside of Softimage XSI. We also have up here the different construction modes available to us in XSI. We have 4: the secondary shape mode, animation construction mode, shape modeling, and modeling construction mode, which is set up by default. There will be times where we'll have to go up there and we may have to change the construction mode to a different one. And when we get into that, I'll explain why that is and how to go ahead and switch modes and what the advantages are to switching modes. So that's going to cover it for the interface here and the different parts of the interface we're going to be using during this tutorial. So it's best that you get familiar with them and understand them so that we can go ahead and start using them during this tutorial. Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. I'll see you in the next one, and we'll go ahead and move along here with dynamics in XSI.